Hi guys, hope you are all well and safe. I'm sat in my garden next to a little pot of plants that I planted a while back. Really chuffed with this. Anyway, it's nothing to do with the video. We had some fantastic weather in the UK over the lockdown. It's been amazing. It's made it so much easier. So I set my easel up in the garden and I got some charcoals out and did a charcoal study, I suppose, rather than a sketch. I had a lot of fun doing this drawing, and when I finished it I thought, you know what, it'd be quite good fun to take this into Procreate and add a bit of colour to it.
Right, I am in Procreate. I've got my photo imported, or my sketch imported. I've locked that layer, as you can see, and then I create a new layer. Next thing I need to do is bring my color wheel onto the canvas, or onto the work area, because I'm going to pick all my colors off that today. And then after that, I need to think about what brush I'm going to use. So in a second or two, I will, there we go, start looking for a brush. And this was as, I thought this through as much as opening up the app and then start looking at brushes and looking for a shape that I thought might be quite nice. So I went to the artistic palette or set of brushes and chose a brush called Hearts, spelt H-A-R-T-Z. And then I started just brushing that on to the canvas. I just wanted to see what it looked like, what sort of shapes it was making. As you can see there, I'm just sort of colouring it in a little bit, and I'm thinking, yeah, that's cool. I like that. That's working for me. So I'm going to use that brush extensively throughout. Next thing, I need to create a select a blend mode for this layer, and the first one is overlay, but you can see it leaves the whites white, and that's not what I wanted really. So I decide overlay isn't the mode, and you can, as you scroll through the modes, it gives you a preview, which is brilliant. I thought about multiply, but no, in the end I go for color burn. I thought that gave me a nice balance between adding colour to those dark areas and also the light areas. And by selecting lights or darks of a colour, or lights or shades off the colour wheel, I could control the strength of the colour quite easily on that layer. So I didn't have to mess about with opacity or anything. I could do it all by choosing the colour, and if you choose white, it almost appears invisible when you brush on it, and the darker the colour, obviously it's more pronounced. So that's the theory behind that. I may in a bit create another layer and change the blend mode to add some more colour, stronger colour perhaps than what I can get with the colour burn mode. But for now, that's working really well, and I can start colouring in, and you can see I'm varying the colour straight away on the sky. I'm adding a little bit of sort of green blue into that sky, and then I'll change the colour again and adjust that slightly. I have to say that I've using the colour wheel, I do not pick one colour off the canvas with this, because if you're using blend modes, it kind of distorts the colour somewhat, and if you try and pick the colour off the canvas, it doesn't appear exactly the same. So I'm much happier using the colour wheel to select my colours when I'm working like this. So I'm actually going to do two paintings today. This first one is all about colouring it in using digital techniques. So in other words, I'm using all the blend modes, or not all the blend modes. I'm going to use a couple of blend modes on this and create layers to colour the whole thing in. The second one I'm going to do is painting in a much more traditional method, where I actually overpaint the sketch with pastels. Again, digital, but so we're going to use two very different techniques. This technique, I'm using the initial sketch as predominantly to be the drawing and the finished image that I'm just colouring it in. So it's like taking an ink, really, and colouring over it and just tinting those existing tones. Whereas the second one, I will actually be overpainting it and destroying some of the original image. So please stay till the end and watch both, because I really want to know, I'm really interested in your feedback. Do you like the digital version of colouring in, or will you like the traditional version? Because obviously they're two very different techniques. This one for me was a lot easier to colour in, because basically you're just choosing a colour and putting it on the original drawing, and the original drawing isn't really interfered with at all, other than that you are adding a little bit of colour to it. So this is the digital version. How did I get that original sketch into Procreate? Well, when you go to when you open up Procreate and you go to the gallery, there is an option to create a new image, or there's a plus to add. So if you click on the plus symbol, there is an option there where you can import. If you've got your image on the cloud, you would select that, or if you've got it in your photo library or your image library, which I did, you choose photo. So I just choose photo, and then opened up the sketch that I'd done, and that's it. It's as easy as that. That's on your first layer, and you can start drawing on that, or creating a new layer, which I did here. So that's how you get the image in. I should also say that both methods, I locked the original image, so I couldn't do anything to it. That's preserved, and then I worked on additional layers. I could have done a third drawing where I actually work on the original layer and blend that black into the colours. I didn't do that. I worked over it, so almost like I'd sprayed a fixative on it to seal it, and then work over that. So it might have been fun to actually work on that original layer in the second painting I did, and I thought about that after, but I didn't. We've got really vibrant colours on this. Now, the reason for that is probably because when I was doing it, obviously I'm not painting it now, I'm doing a voiceover, but you could see it in the intro. I did the original sketch in the garden. I actually took my iPad into the garden and did this colouring in exercise, sat in the garden. I had to find a shady spot, obviously, because any sun on the screen and it just sort of blows it out and you can't see anything. So I was looking for a nice shady little spot to sit. But even then, it was sort of affecting the screen, and it was difficult at times to see what I was doing. So I was using really vibrant colours, probably because it was the only way I was going to see what I was doing. But having said that, I do like that really vibrant look about it, and I'm hoping you're all now going to go out and dig out your old pencil sketches and start adding colour to them and posting them in Digital Easel, of course, because that's a forum on Facebook. I will put a link in the description below, because one or two of you have said you've had trouble finding it. A Facebook group called Digital Easel, where you can all post your pictures and share them on that group. Really friendly group. I'm really enjoying it. It's not a massive group. There's probably just over 100 or 200 members now. But they're really friendly. It's a nice way to start sharing your art if you haven't done so before and you want a friendly environment. Or digital, please. It's all about painting digital, not traditional. There's loads of groups around for that. So this one's all about digital. There's no griefing or sarky comments or anything. Everyone is really friendly and supportive, and it's turned into a really nice community. So if you want to post your images on there, please do so, because it's great to see what you guys are doing as well. Although I don't comment on everybody's paintings, I do look at everybody's paintings and enjoy looking at them all, but obviously there's too many to comment on them all. So here I think I decide that I need to create a new layer. Here we go, because I want to add a little bit of colour to the buildings, so I needed to create a new layer for that. I'm choosing a colour, and I begin by just sort of painting in a bit of colour. So this is the blend mode's normal, so it's over painting, and the reason I've done that, I can now go in and start choosing a blend mode for that. So it's normal, as you can see there, and I'm scrolling down and I'm sort of just looking at all the different modes. I don't know why I chose, looked like I selected overlay there, which isn't going to work. As I said at the beginning, that's we'll leave all the whites white, and I go with, I think, linear burn. There we go, linear burn. So now you can see, look at that, I can add some really strong colour. So the two blend modes that I used in this painting was colour burn and linear burn, and that sort of organic looking brush gave me that really nice texture to those roofs. So I think I'm probably just going to add a little bit more colour to those buildings, and we're getting very close to it being finished. Yeah, there we go. Look, a little bit onto those fronts of those buildings, and this is because I've changed the blend mode to linear burn. That's allowed me to do that, but still keep the original sketch glowing through below and not being affected at all. So just adding a little bit more colour. It really is a vibrant piece. Just wondering where I'm going to go next and what I'm going to do next. It's a lovely place to visit. If you're in the UK, this is Robin Hood's Bay, and it's got this sort of, as you can see, this stone wall that sort of protects the house, or I suppose it protects the cliff face from collapsing, really. And the beach, I wouldn't call it a beach, really. It's well, it is a beach, but it's sort of stony. It's not a sandy beach. As you can see, there's lots of sort of seaweed and stuff laying on it, and there's lots of little fishing boats there that you can't see in this photo, and there's people with buckets and the kids going picking up crabs and seashells and things like that. It really is a nice place to visit. So adding a little bit more colour, a bit more overpainting, darkening up in the odd place. I really did go in with some strong colours in this one. So we are getting really close to the end. I think I wanted the buildings to pop, the roof of the buildings, and make them the main feature. And I didn't want the wall to sort of be lighter than the building. So I think that's why I added all that colour. And the same with that little highlight on the beach. I didn't want that to be too bright. I put a little bit of blue in there, which I think I do put some blue back in. Yeah, I'm sure I did. There we go. And this blend mode is still the linear burn, so it's adding colour to those white areas. So I think that we cannot be having much more to do to this one. I need to crop it though, because I may have edited that bit out. just adding a little bit of that colour into those clouds as well. Yeah, I'm obviously now standing back looking at it. Sun glaring on the screen, can't see a lot, and at that point you do get me to see me resize that. Yeah, I crop that down, look, and just take that little bit off the top because there's no way I was going to cover that up. And that's it. That is my digital colouring in of Robin Hood's Bay. That's the first drawing. So this is a double bonus video because I'm going to go straight in and start the second painting. So what I'm doing here, I am trying out a couple of charcoal brushes. At the minute, I think I'm using the charcoal block. That's it. But then I switch to the burnt tree. I want a more open charcoal so that you can actually see that black underneath, doesn't block it out completely. You can see there I'm sort of adding different blues, really dark blues, and I'm liking that. Then the blend mode is normal, so it is blocking out the colour underneath. So you can see what I mean, where this one isn't about preserving the original image. This one's about using the original image as my preliminary sketch, I suppose, where I start to work over it and add colour, and you start to lose that original sketch. And it's quite daunting. The other way is it feels a lot safer because you keep that original drawing. I mean, this is safe because I've got the original layer locked and I'm not touching it at all, but you do start to it does start to disappear before your eyes, and you can, you know, erase back, that's fine, but it feels like that, well, you've got lots more control for a start because you can change shapes and adjust the sky, the cloud in the sky, and so on. But there is that sort of underlying fear that you may lose that image, and if you was working on the original layer, then obviously that would be a real threat. You see there where I made the brush big, it you do get that kind of blurriness. I used the blend mode a lot in this. I felt that the charcoals needed blending out, especially in the sky, and then painting over again to get some nice sharp edges. So the eraser and the blend mode are both set to charcoals, the same, I think it's the burnt tree, the same as the pencil, so I can switch between blending and painting, and that gets this really nice soft diffused effect, but also a very clean looking effect. And you can see what I mean about the original paintings disappearing, and I can start to create something slightly different in the sky, a little bit more like the original sky, not exactly the same though, obviously. Still working in the bright sunlight, so the colours may appear to be a little bit stronger than perhaps if I'd worked in the studio or inside where the sun wasn't giving me any problems. So I've got some really bright, strong blue going off there. That's interesting. Can you see I'm starting to sculpt out the shapes of those clouds differently to what they are on that underlying sketch? So I am doing a different drawing this time. I'm recreating or reinventing some of those shapes. So you have got a lot more control, and you can make different changes doing this method. And it does look, to me, it looks a lot more organic and natural than the other drawing. But as I say, I really would like your opinion at the end, which image do you prefer? Do you like this sort of traditional charcoal one that I'm doing now, or the first one? So again, I'm blending out those colours, look, just softening off the clouds. I love this sort of impressionist look where you don't really try and copy nature exactly, but you interpret it in your own way by making these sort of random abstract shapes. So again, I'm reinventing that sky slightly. It's interesting to see how this is shaping up and how I'm changing things. So where the other one was sort of just a colouring in of the sketch, this is like an evolution of the sketch, and you're taking it to the next level and you're still being creative. The other one felt like I was colouring in a book, whereas this feels like I'm actually painting on a canvas still. So for me, this was a more rewarding experience. But both, I think, do give excellent results. They do look very different. Do you think the first one actually looks digital compared to this one? I think this one looks very natural, and the other one does look digital. I had a lot of fun doing them both, though, I must say, sort of experimenting with blend modes and sort of pushing boundaries in that way. And this one just sort of looking at the image a second time and changing it and creating almost a different painting entirely. So it looks like I'm sticking with this burnt tree charcoal, which you can find in the charcoal brushes. It's a standard charcoal pencil, so it's easy to find if you want to have a go with this. I think it is my favourite charcoal brush because it has got such an open grain to it. What was nice about importing this original drawing, of course, was you got the texture of the actual paper. The original drawing was done on just cartridge paper. It was just a sketch pad that I've had for years, and I've only ever used I bought it when I went to the Lake District about 10 years ago, and I did 4 or 5 charcoal sketches in it, and then put it away and never used it again. I pulled it out this week. Well, I pulled it out to do this charcoal sketch, and I was looking at the original sketches. Oh my god, these are awful. I have improved quite a bit, I think, since then. So it's just a cartridge pad, cheap pad. Probably cost me £3 or £4 or something like that. It's big, as you saw in the intro video. It's quite big pad. So it's a big sketch to work on, but it's still got a nice texture that's come through on this drawing, which I'm really pleased about. Doing this wall was quite daunting because you can see all that detail that I did in the original starts to disappear when I add this colour, and I have to think, right, okay, don't worry about it. We can get that texture back with this charcoal brush, just doing exactly what I did with the original drawing, with the charcoal stick. Reproduce that effect with this digital charcoal, and yeah, it worked. So zooming in, that looks quite cool because you can see. I'll be hard pressed to say, if I didn't know that the black was all done with a conventional charcoal stick and all the colour is done digitally. I'm really struggling to see there which was digital and which was traditional. I have to say, I do think that digital painting apps have totally nailed charcoal. it really is very good. So still sort of adding colour to this wall. I do think with charcoal it is, or pastels I should call it at this point, because really it's like we're using coloured pastels, isn't it? Using pastels, I do think the more colour you put on the better. And when I say that, I don't mean you need like every colour in the rainbow, but sort of different tints and tones of the same colour applied rather than just one, and then maybe an hint of a complementary colour or something like that added. That all of that helps create that nice texture. And you can see here in the foreground I'm doing just that. I'm adding lots of colour. Totally blocking out that original drawing. It was quite scary because I thought, I really like what I'd done in the charcoal. Am I going to be able to reproduce it digitally? Am I going to get a nice effect? Is it going to work for me? And the answer is, I think it did. I think it worked really well. So start off putting those light colours in, then I'm overworking it with darker colours. So I think I'm staying pretty faithful to the original sketch by adding the colour here. It's got that same kind of feeling and freshness. I'm wondering if I'm going to put some lights in that foreground just to add a bit. Here we go. There we go. I was going to say, I think it needs that to perhaps not those marks. They're not, that's better. That's what we're looking for. These stronger, bold marks that draw your eye into the painting, as opposed to them fiddly little things that were like done without, almost if I was scared to make those marks. I like the bigger, bold statements. So that gives the impression of a little bit of light bouncing off the sand. Oh, I hope it does. That's what I'm trying to get there. Get a little bit of blue in. So you can see I've got so much colour in that foreground. Loving it. Really loving it. Again, I didn't pick any colours off the canvas, although I could have done this time, but I didn't. I think it was because I was already in the zone of picking off the colour wheel. I stuck with that. I did a bit of blending on the wall as well, and I don't know if I did any on the foreground, but just to sort of keep that same sort of feel going throughout. I did a little bit of colour. Now that red, I feel on that roof is too much. All the other colours are muted. There's no real sort of primary colours in there. There we are. So I knocked it back a bit. That's good. I didn't want it to be too in your face. So colour wise, it's very similar to the first picture I did. Just throwing those into shadow. I like doing this narration after the event because I see the painting very, very differently than when I was actually doing it, and I sometimes wonder why I did what I did. So it's interesting. The narration is very different to when it's live, because when it's live, obviously I'm in the zone and I'm talking exactly what emotions are going through my head at that point. When I do it after the event, I'm trying to second guess what I was thinking. Quite often I'm thinking, why did I do that? What was I doing that for? So it is a very interesting way to make the videos, doing the audio, the narration after the painting. But I quite often I feel I get a better painting doing it this way, because I'm lost in the painting when I'm doing it, and I just totally concentrating on that and not worrying about the narration at all. So I do think some of the better paintings come out of doing the narration after. But I like doing it the other way around as well. I must have liked this better than the first one, because as you can see, I actually go to the effort of signing this one, and I didn't sign the first one. I think that was subconscious. It wasn't like I thought, I'm not signing this, I don't like it. I just forgot, really. But this one, I must have liked it because a bit more, because I thought I want to sign this one. So let's get that signature on, and that one's finished. So there we have it. 2 paintings done very differently in Procreate, colouring a charcoal sketch. Which one did you like? Comments below, please. And don't forget, thumbs up, much appreciated. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, because I have loads of videos like this. Don't forget, everybody, keep painting, stay safe, and stay sane. And hopefully, I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.